America. They'll come to you, and with comprehensive insurance coverage, there's no cost to you. Call Auto Glass America now and fix that pane in the glass with premium glass and a lifetime warranty. Call 813-96-GLASS, 813-96-GLASS. Auto Glass America.
Hello, this is David Kornowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR. From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Kornowski. So glad to be with you once again. And it's great to have this time to unpack the news like we always do. You and I together, thinking through these things like nobody else does. We're not guided by toxic groupthink or tribalism. We're in the search of the truth. We want beauty. We want nonviolence. We want peace. We want prosperity. We want win-win solutions. And that's why we protect the principle of personhood as best as we can. Humans that we are, fallen that we are, we do the best we can to advance the principles of personhood. And I want to read from this upcoming piece we're going to have on our website, aneighborschoice.com. Just read some quotes from it. It's called Berdyaev versus Slavery. And that's in reference to the author, Nicholas Berdyaev, who was a Russian thinker and critic of ideology in the modern totalitarian type systems that we have today. He battled the communist dictators in his own time, but he had some great insights. And and the article, which will be coming up very shortly on aneighborschoice.com by Surat Dasgupta, says man is a riddle in the world, and it may be the greatest riddle. Man is a riddle not because he is an animal, not because he is a social being, not as a part of nature and society. It is as a person that he is a riddle. Just that precisely. It is because he possesses personality. And that's a quote from Nikolai Berdyaev from his book, Slavery and Freedom. And I'll just read a few quotes from the upcoming article because I thought it's a great piece in keeping with what we talk about on the show. On the concept of the state, Berdyaev writes that, quote, the state always repeats the word of Caiaphas, the high priest. It is the state's confession of faith. The words of Caiaphas, of course, are, it is better for us that one man should die for the people than that the whole nation should perish. That which has been considered immoral for a person, Berdyaev continues, has been considered entirely moral for the state. And that's something I've talked about a lot on this program. I've talked about that in a way that is, able to touch on various issues in the news, but it's something that it's like a cheat sheet. Once you understand this principle of personhood, then understanding where you fall on the issues is a little cleaner and simple. And that is the lie that just because the state says they can do it doesn't make it moral. Just because other people say it's okay to steal from your neighbor who has more, it doesn't make it moral if other people vote for somebody to do that on your behalf. And that's something that comes from Christianity, not libertarianism. People try to say that's a libertarian. No, Berdyaev is not a libertarian. He's a Christian thinker, a literary author. And, it's just interesting to see how we kind of debase these things and try to squeeze them into, no, that's called Christianity, my friend. There's no ism you need. That's just what it means to imitate Jesus, is you respect people's personhood. In the cultural and ideal tendencies of our epoch, dehumanization moves in two directions, toward naturalism and towards technicism. Man is subject either to cosmic forces or to technical civilization. It is not enough to say that he subjects himself. He is dissolved and disappears, either in cosmic life, and that's kind of reflective of the materialistic, atomistic view of the scientism of people who try to say that we're just cosmic stardust, So we're just part of this cosmic stardust, atoms colliding together, and what is called consciousness is just an illusion that we try to make sense of, but it's only an illusion. There's no real thing there. It's nothing but an illusion manifested by atoms colliding together and creating certain effects that we perceive to be something greater than what are really going on. Or we are always obsessed with almighty techniques. Man takes it upon himself the image either of nature or of the machine. But in either case, he loses his own image and is dissolved into his component elements. That's what we see today in modern medicine. If you have a disease, they say cut it out, chop it, burn it. If you have mental disorder, they say we'll put this chemical in you to reduce that chemical or that process from happening in your brain. They don't think about holistic stuff. They think about you as a machine, like your tire's flat. Okay, change the tire. They treat human beings like machines. You're low energy, change the batteries. They don't think about holistic body and soul intertwined together. And they don't understand. That's why they have, when you treat man like a machine, then you have a situation where 90-year-olds are locked in their homes or locked in nursing homes with geniuses like Andrew Cuomo shoving in COVID-19 infected people around them and then getting Emmys for that performance. But you have 90-year-olds being stuck without any companionship, without being able to be hugged. Now, they don't know what medicine is. What is the definition of health? Quality of life is part of health. Having some kind of technical definition of, well, they're still breathing in a pulse, therefore they're alive, therefore I have advanced health for that person. No, that's a technical, machine-like view of human beings. That you just look and see, can I keep the pulse going? Can I keep that? That's all I care about, like it's a robot, like it's a cattle. Rather than saying, wait a second, how do you get to define what is life for a human being? You're telling me that you can decree that a person who's 90 years old is resigned to have to be stuck in permanent isolation till they die year after year, rather than hug their children? How do we get to define who their life is, what their life is all about? You're going to decree as a society that they can't hug anybody? They have to stay alive because of some technical definition, some machine interpretation of the human body? That's what we're dealing with here. But Berdyaev says, man as a whole being, as a creature, centered within himself, disappears. He ceases to be a being with a spiritual center, retaining his inner continuity and his unity. With the advent of the Industrial Revolution, we see human persons turning into mechanized units, disposable flesh and blood, ready to be exploited by the dominating class. Man turns into a domesticated beast, ready to plow the concrete fields of the modern landscape, his uniqueness and worth all but forgotten. Berdyaev's problem with violent revolutions can be seen in the fact that they are born from the envy of the bourgeoisie spirit rather than transcending it. Socialism and communism, Berdyaev says, may give effect to a just and equitable distribution of the bourgeoisie spirit. Of course, Berdyaev has no desire to perpetuate the bourgeoisie mentality of pride and aloofness simply because it could not be reconciled with his Christian worldview. He writes, at one time in Egypt, the dignity of immortality was attributed only to the king. All the rest of the people were mortal. In Greece, to begin with, only gods or demigods or heroes and supermen were regarded as immortal. The people were mortal. Christianity alone has recognized all men worthy of immortality. That is to say, it makes the idea of immortality absolutely democratic. Christianity has overthrown the principles of Greco-Roman culture, and in so doing, has affirmed the dignity of every man, of his sonship to God. It has affirmed the image of God in every man, and Christianity alone is able to unite democracy, the equality of man in the sight of God, with the aristocratic principle of personality, the spiritual equality of persons, which is not dependent upon society and the masses. That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for the right to have freedom, and with freedom to do great virtuous acts of self-sacrifice and creativity. And that's not what we have pushed on us every day from the media. We have a society that wants to be sterile, bureaucratic, scared, fearful, arrogant, deluded, ignorant, and unwilling to taste the freedom that is our birthright. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. We'll take a break and return in just a moment after these short messages.
This portion of the upcoming amazing broadcast is brought to you by the law firm of Catania & Catania, award-winning personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys, serving Tampa Bay families for over 28 years.
Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a sixth-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Here's one thing you can scratch off your to-do list without going anywhere, without any out-of-pocket cost to you, and even get up to $150 cash back. Get that crack in your windshield fixed by calling Auto Glass America. They'll come to you, and with comprehensive insurance coverage, there's no cost to you. Call Auto Glass America now and fix that pane in the glass with premium glass and a lifetime warranty. Call 813-96-GLASS, 813-96-GLASS. Auto Glass America.
Got Diacos? My name is synonymous with breast surgery. If you want better breasts, let me, Dr. Dan Diaco, help. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon with over 20 years of experience and have performed over 5,000 breast procedures. If you want perkier breasts, whether bigger or smaller, let me help. Are you tired of loose or sagging skin in your face, neck, breasts, or tummy? Let me, Dr. Dan Diaco, a board-certified plastic surgeon with 20 years of experience, help you. I use the latest technology such as Face Tight and Body Tight to both tighten skin and remove fat without scars.
Are you ready to transform your career? Jess Smith was too. She was stuck in a job that was controlling her life, consuming her free time, and offering little opportunity for growing her pay. Then she found FinTech Mortgage Association, and she never looked back. FinTech Mortgage Association makes home lending they need to build a career with a schedule they can changing. Unleash your true potential. Join FinTech Mortgage Association. Visit finmay.com. That's FINMAE.com. You're in charge now. NMLS ID 1492187. Equal housing lender.
New guidelines show it's relatively safe for women with epilepsy to become pregnant, but it's recommended they avoid the seizure drug valproate since the drug can cause birth defects. For more information on these guidelines from the American Academy of Neurology and American Epilepsy Society, visit thebrainmatters.org.
A Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm your host, David Gronowski. I'm looking at this story on Populist Press, populist.press. It says YouTube bans right-side broadcasting for criticizing election process. Everyone, they comment, needs to drop big tech like we did, build your network on your own platform, play by your own rules. But it says Right Side Broadcasting Network has covered almost every single Trump appearance, interview, or rally since it was first launched in July 2015 and has been endorsed by the president-elect himself. While there was speculation that Mr. Trump would launch an official Trump TV if he lost the election, the Washington Post said Right Side Broadcasting was operating as the unofficial version of Trump TV after the billionaire's campaign teamed up with the network to stream its programs on Mr. Trump's Facebook page. But with a YouTube channel of 246,000 subscribers, MSNBC only has 233,000 subscribers. RSBN became a credible resource for Trump supporters. This week, they gave a special announcement, which he declared the network would be running. Breaking: YouTube announces they will remove video critical of the 2020 election, will promote corporate content only. So it looks like they're having some censorship there. But that's what happens when, of course, when you're dependent on these platforms, which A Neighbor's Choice is not. I do not see our presence on Facebook or YouTube as the primary means of communication. I see that as an afterthought in terms of our platform. Our main priority is our own radio network, our own website, our podcast, and channels and websites and platforms which are reliable for diverse thought. We need to have a very swift and very direct and very strong repudiation of this deep corporate fascist mindset, which is accelerating in its intensity day by day. These platforms like YouTube and Facebook and so forth, they are cutting out any independent thought. It is not about right wing. These people are not progressive. They're not open-minded. They're not liberal. These people are Luddites. They are the book burners. They are book burners. Those are fascists. That's why they don't ban Antifa, because Antifa is for corporate fascism. That's why their slogans are all endorsed by Bank of America and all the, it's like, what the, you guys, and I don't know if that's for sure, but basically all the giant corporations and banks are all regurgitating the same slogans that the Antifa kids do. They are corporate fascists. And the social media sites are corporate fascists in their aesthetic and in their desire. You cannot think for yourself about medical. You can't think for yourself about finance. You can't. We have Bring Our Troops Home.us, the group run by Sergeant Dan McKnight. They come on our program every week, as you know. And they tried to run an ad to promote bringing the troops home in honor of General Smedley Butler, who was a war hero in World War I and blew the whistle on how war is a racket with his pamphlet, War is a Racket. And he blew the whistle on corporate fascism, but because Dan McKnight and Bring Our Troops Home wanted to run an ad to promote their anti-war left and right coalition, YouTube would not allow them to run the ad. YouTube is pro-war. YouTube is pro mass incarceration. That's why they want only Joe Biden to be elected. They don't want to have anybody think about anything else. They cover up any kind of criticism of his corrupt family. We can't stand for these book burners. These are fascists. They're fascists. And when I say fascist, I mean that literally. They're fascists. They can't handle diverse thought. They have to use violence and coercion. And you don't believe they do? You don't believe that they benefit from government rules? That's the introduction of coercion into the marketplace. These giant corporations that are consolidating power. Everybody's buying everything from one company now, Amazon, right? Or Walmart. All these small businesses are being destroyed. Joe Biden's telling you got to wear a mask for 100 days when he's president. He's been wearing a mask his whole life. That's why he doesn't know what the difference is. He's like, what's the big deal? I've been wearing a mask to get where I am, lie through my teeth, smile, be a flim-flam man, an empty suit, a small-minded person, someone who will lie himself for anything. He'll lie. He's been wearing a mask his entire life, so he wants you to wear a mask. He's going to try to demand you wear a mask because that's what he thinks his role is as a president. He couldn't take care of his own health, but he wants to tell you what to do to take care of your health. We have to fight back against this fascism. And we have to meet them on the plane of intellectual discourse. We have to defeat their ideas in the academic world, the intellectual world, and we have to defeat their Luddite practices with creative technologies, innovations, medical breakthroughs, transportation revolutions, energy revolutions, and artistic revolutions. We have to make good art. We don't make good art anymore, hardly. You don't see it as much. We need to make good art because good art is what transmits the values and creates the aesthetic that we need to be able to break through bad fascistic type behavior. So we have to be able to see through this and name the enemy. And the enemy is what we see, the McWoke corporate fascism. Call it out for what it is. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West. They can't handle you calling them what they really are. You pour a little water and they're melting. They can't handle just being exposed by telling the truth. The truth has its own power. It's like a sword. It cuts through all the noise and confusion and disarray. And make no mistake, we're dealing with corporate fascists. They want to censor your speech about your medicine. They want to censor your criticism about unjust wars from veterans themselves, refusing them the opportunity to even buy and take money. They're trying to give them money to promote their ad to honor a hero like General Smedley Butler, and the scoundrels that love war at YouTube, they have the audacity to say that they're socially just while they literally do whatever they can to keep unjust wars going on. The worst heinous thing you could probably do as a media entity. And the only way they have their power is because of government privilege and fraudulent practices for lying and masquerading as a neutral platform until they got enough power to do the bidding of totalitarians in government and big business cronies. And now they do the old switcheroo where they start censoring, deleting anybody who thinks differently. True liberals, true conservatives, true progressives, everybody. Nobody's wanted if you think boldly for yourself on that platform. But that's fine, because they will sow their own destruction. Because the truth will come out, and those who stand against the truth will go out of business. They'll be forgotten, or they'll be forced to change to keep up with the times. So let's continue to build our conversation and don't let these fascists get in the way of a free mind and a free society. Back in a second.
There is all kinds of lunacy going on. The madness of 2020.
Weekdays 11 to 2.
I'm just so fed up with these Democrats. It's unbelievable.
Get it straight from Chris Plant.
They're so hypocritical. It makes me sick.
It's the Chris Plant Show.
This has just got me going on.
And the left is waging war against the police in the United States.
Telling it like it is.
You should be thanked profusely for getting to the point. You're a voice of reason in the sea of idiots.
The Chris Plant Show. Weekdays 11 to 2. News Talk 1040 WHBO.
On to the Senate. The House approved a one-week continuing resolution to avert a government shutdown this weekend and keep it funded through a week from Friday. Lawmakers are hoping to get a long-term funding bill passed by then. Facebook, the target of a lawsuit filed by 46 attorneys general. New York's AG Letitia James says the social media behemoth stifles a competition.
No company should have this much unchecked power over our personal information and our social interactions. And that's why we are taking action today and standing up.
The Federal Trade Commission filed its own suit against Facebook today, also accusing it of being an illegal monopoly. President-elect Biden's son, Hunter, says his tax affairs are under federal investigation. The ongoing tally by COVID tracking project says last week was the deadliest for the U.S. since the start of the pandemic, with roughly 92 deaths every hour. A drop in tech stocks caused the markets to tumble, the Dow down more than 100 points today. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
So what the left always does, the neoliberal left, the establishment that's represented by the social media cartels, is they're all desperate to have status. That's what they want. And Wilfred Riley, our guest in the previous hour, if you're just joining us, he's a professor at Kentucky State University. He's got it right. It's all about they want to be the cool kids. They want to create a tier society where they say the language and you don't have all the exact politically correct language up to date because they're always changing it every month, like fashion. And if you miss one word wrong, if you don't say them or she when someone says that's their pronoun, then you're not quite as cool, you're not quite as good, you're not quite as with it. And the same thing goes for everything they do. They think it's cool to be for big pharma. They think it's cool to be for government-forced medicine. They think it's cool to eat human pet food, goop, slop that masquerades as meat. They think it's cool to censor people who criticize war. They think it's cool to basically sound like Dick Cheney, but just to say, you know, woke little sprinkle, you sprinkle some woke language and it's basically the same foreign policy they mouth that Dick Cheney does, and they think that's cool now. They think it's cool to laud a man like Barack Obama, who deported 2 to 3 million people and put kids in cages and had photographs to show for it of them in dog cages at the border. They think that's cool because Obama says, you know, he talks like I'm here to help you all. And he says soaring rhetoric about the moon rising and the water party. And that they think that's cool. So they want to be cool. They think they're better than you. They know they're not, but they want to imagine that they can be. That's why you always have haters. That's why social media is just an envy and hate fest, because it's all a bunch of people, wannabes, never gonna bees, that all want to take swipes at each other and point, oh, you're ugly. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. Oh, you're dumb. And all they do is just fantasize that they have some real power, that somebody cares, and nobody does care. But together, when they do a hashtag, they get to be a part of a hive mind. And then in that moment, they can kind of participate in the fantasy that they matter, because they can say the same thing that 100,000 other people said on a platform. So everything you see is all about social status. When they say, just wear a mask, that's all about social status. And I don't care whether you wear a mask. If you have immune compromisation or if you have a family member, then you are free to wear a mask. That's fine. But they make it a social status thing, you see? Just like their love for veganism They feel upset and they feel guilt-ridden that they voted for warmongers like Hillary Clinton, who gutted the economy of Haiti when they had disasters, who gave their gold mine rights to her brother, a sick mafia crook. And they feel so bad inside that they stupidly voted for Hillary Clinton, even though she had a record of being a criminal corporate fascist, enriching herself off of the decimation of people who are in dire financial circumstances around the world. And they feel so bad about it that they want to say, well, I don't eat meat. They want, oh, well, see, I'm better than you now because even though I cage people by hiring people like Hillary Clinton to arrest nonviolent people, and even though I vote for Hillary Clinton to bomb people with drone strikes who are just at a wedding in the wrong place at the wrong time, and just because I vote for someone like Hillary Clinton that guts the foundations of prosperity for countries like Haiti when they're in times of need, but I don't eat a steak, even though humans have been eating steak since before recorded history, and meat. It was probably way tastier if you had mastodon meat, a lot more richer and fattier than your average ribeye. Mammoth. Have you ever had a mammoth, fatty mammoth leg? But these people feel like they're cool, that they're better than you because they eat goop that some giant corporation's making a huge margin on. Because these idiots, look at this, they eat the goop. We squirt goop from a tube and these people eat it up. And then they put hashtag and put a filter on the goop to try to make the goop look better. This is weaponized ignorance, my friends. And it's all about trying to feel cool, like they're better than you. So don't give them that. That's why I call them a corporate fascist. They don't want to hear that because fascism is not cool because they watched Indiana Jones and all the villains are Nazis. And so therefore, that brand is what they think of as the only kind of evil. They don't think of communism and fascism. They're all versions of wicked, evil tyrants. But you take their language and throw it right back at them because that's exactly what they are. Those who parrot the line of neoliberal censorship. These things have real world consequences that can affect us all. And if we don't stand up and challenge these bullies, it'll get worse and worse. I think there's a certain mindset for people who are not very political. They feel like if I just stick my head in the sand and numb out to my television and my sports and entertainment, it'll all go away. They'll all calm down. That's not what's happening, my friend. Did you not hear the NBC PR firm talking point about wanting to put a scan to get you all your medical has to be forced by government for you to go see the football game? You're not going to be able to numb out without being, submitted to whatever little totalitarian stuff you roll over and take. This is how freedom is actually fought. It's when we've had it so good I was thinking about that the other day in the 90s. Especially near the end of the 90s. All the movies were all about, the meaninglessness of office work. You go back and watch a movie like Office Space. And it's about, dealing with the decadent, very lavish, very comfortable society in the late 90s. And so you're obsessed with kind of these themes of what is the meaning of all of this? Why do I have to work like this? Why do I have to go to a cubicle? Why do I have to do such, tangential work or something? You watch the Office Space and it's all about the drudgery of it all, right? And that's what happens. Those are the kind of stories we tell ourselves when we're in comfort, when everything's relatively just lavish comfort and decadence. And then 9/11 happened and that changed the narrative of our storytelling for a while. But then we that kind of went away and we kind of went back to comfort again. And now this political tyrannical nanny state that they've tried to push in the last year because of this virus has reminded us once again of something that we haven't had to think about in a long time, which is how quickly the freedoms that we always take for granted can be stripped away in a moment's notice without a legislative vote, without any constitutional amendment. They can force you to stay in your home. They can put you on basically virtual house arrest. You can't go out. They don't want you to go out because that consolidates the economy for their great reset, which will help a few corporate friends and a few giant government bureaucracies. And it will consolidate market power for a few corporations, a few government bureaucracies, and it will make people more compliant and more go along to get along. And that's what we're dealing with when we see this stuff. And that's why it's important to not be asleep, to not numb out. Hugo Lowell says, breaking House passes National Defense Authorization Act with veto-proof majority, 335 to 78. NDAA approved with Warren provision to rename Confederate bases intact and without repeal of Section 230. So that's what you're dealing with because you keep voting for, or not you, but the general you, okay? I'm concerned with the general you here at this point, is that we keep voting for the same neoliberal uniparty candidates. The Paul Ryans, the Mitch McConnells, the Mitt Romneys, the so-ons and so forth, the Joe Bidens, the Bill Clintons, the Barack Obamas, they're all just on the same policies, just a little bit of flavoring differences in terms of how they rhetorically emphasize certain things. But that's what they do. They unite around politically correct gesturing, renaming the bases, and has no real teeth to it. It's just it's just political gesturing, and then they fight against the repeal of Section 230, which would allow, if you repealed it, from what I understand, would put social media giants in the same boat that all publishers of media are in, which is that you cannot masquerade as some kind of utility and then have extremely aggressive editorial policies and then not call yourself a publisher. You're a publisher, and if you're a publisher, you need to be in the same rules that everybody else is who's a publisher, which means you're liable for the things that you are going to publish. Everybody else in the market has to play by that rule, then they have to play by it too. What, do you think you can repeal liability laws and remove the ability for any publisher to be sued for false information? No, that's not going to happen. So they need to apply the same standards to these Facebook, YouTube, Google, and so forth. But of course, Republicans and Democrats unite together to increase military spending, which makes a lot of money for the revolving door corporations that are all around military. And they're going to go along with, a meaningless gesture like renaming bases. And then they're going to go along with blocking the repeal of Section 230. So the uniparty always steps up when it's time to play ball. The things that they matter, which is endless wars, endless military spending, endless surveillance, endless politically correct gesturing that divides people by constantly picking each other apart. And then Section 230, which would put a little bit of more market pressure back onto the social media outlets to start acting like honest brokers again. If you're going to be a public utility or you're going to act like a utility, then act like it and stop censoring criticism of the election results. That's ridiculous. That's third world dictator crap. I mean, what's the difference between them and the boogeymen they always talk about in places like Belarus? These people, they're strongman. Well, what are you guys trying to do? You're trying to strongman people's thoughts out of existence. That's book burning fascism. That's what these social media sites are doing. Oh, you criticize Big Pharma? Gone. Oh, you criticize this election? You showed video of a dubious election policy? Can't happen. We can't live in this thought-controlled nightmare. We have to fight back. We have to build our own platforms. We cannot rely and put our efforts on these platforms. And because they want to censor challenges to the election results, I'm going to continue to emphasize them because I don't have a dog in the fight about Trump versus Biden. And when it really comes down to it, But you know what I do have an interest in? I have an interest in fighting back against censorship, because the way censors win is from people self-censoring or being apathetic when other people are being censored. So when I hear that these platforms are trying to censor challenges to the election results, then it makes me cover those topics even more so. Maybe that's just my soft spot for scapegoats. We all have them. So you look at this. Let me give you an example. This is in the Texas lawsuit that Texas filed with the Supreme Court regarding Michigan. Wayne County in Michigan. Wayne County statements of votes reports lists 174,384 absentee ballots out of 566,694 absentee ballots tabulated, about 30.8%. As counted without a registered, they've recorded 174,000 absentee ballots out of 566,000 as counted without a registration number for precincts in the city of Detroit. These are votes with no registration. That's what Kevin McCullough is saying. They could be photocopy ballots for all practical purposes. So we need to look into that. Why can't we look into that? YouTube says they won't let you talk about it. Twitter puts a flag on it. Facebook puts a flag on it. How in the world can anybody call themselves an independent thinker and not be weirded out by that? When you have giant corporations all working in tandem for one political agenda, does that not raise your suspicions at all? I cannot imagine how anybody would not be bothered by that. Are they that dumb with envy that they adore and worship Donald Trump so much, these neoliberals, that they cannot stand the thought of waking up to the reality that the media and the social media cartels are not in the interest of a free society the way they're acting? So here's some more. We're going to cover the election criticism. This is a post, key points in the Trump Georgia lawsuit. Again, I'm reporting on this not as someone who's on team red or team blue, but as someone who is going to talk about things. If a bunch of censors tell me I'm not supposed to talk about it, we're going to talk about it. 2,560 felons voted, 66,247 underage voters voted, 2,423 votes from people not registered, 1,043 individuals registered at P.O. boxes, 4,926 individuals who voted in Georgia after registering in another state, 395 individuals who voted in 2 states, 15,700 votes from people who moved out of state before the election, 40,279 votes of people who moved without re-registering in their new county, and 30 to 40,000 absentee ballots lacking proper signature matching and verification. The lawsuit also outlines violations of over 30 Georgia law codes and includes affidavits. So that's from Michael Cowdery. I'm just going to report this stuff, and you can do the research about this, but I'm going to voice these perspectives because I'm not going to have a situation where we all just self-censor and be quiet because these corporate fascists tell us that we can't talk about anything. They don't want us to talk about anything. They just want us to be mindless, stupid consumers. Tim Pool, who is a YouTuber, says YouTube has informed that if you claim, quote, widespread fraud or errors change the outcome of the 2020 U.S. presidential election, unquote, you will not receive a strike. They will just remove the content. After January 20th, you will start receiving strikes for making these claims. These people are such shameless shills for the warmongering and mass incarceration and corporate bailouts and welfare and nanny state slop from the Biden weekend at Bernie's administration, that they are saying we are just going to start striking people left and right, deleting content if you say anything that disagrees with our czar that we have installed as the president. Anybody who's independent, anybody who's an adult, who is not owned with envy and adoration for Donald Trump, like the neoliberal left is, can look at this stuff and say, I do not want this kind of stuff to continue. You cannot look at this stuff and say, yeah, this is perfectly normal. perfectly fine for giant corporations with dubious startup scenarios to come together with the same narrative. They still question the Bush versus Gore. They still question that. There's never going to be a censor for that. They did a new movie about it. Was it on Showtime or something? And they still, I mean, they did a hit piece on Reagan on a new Showtime documentary series on Showtime talking about Reagan was this idiot, dumb person, horrible person, and all these people just dogging on the man. But if you go against their little narrative, my goodness, you're done for. Now, their ideas are done for. We're just battling these Luddite ideas and seeing these reactionaries at YouTube and Google in the ash heap of history. Their ideas have failed. They are not going to win. Future is bright if you and I stand up and speak out and build our platforms and fight for our families every day. Back with more in just a moment. Hello, this is David Gronowski with A Neighbor's Choice. I've got a mission for you. I'm a big believer in eating family farm-raised, high-quality, grass-fed beef. That's why I'm a frequent customer of White Oak Pasture, a 6th-generation beautiful farm in southwest Georgia. Support sustainable, delicious meat of the highest quality. Ask for White Oak Pasture's beef at your local grocery here in Florida, or go to whiteoakpastures.com, and first-time customers get 20% off on purchases with our exclusive coupon code NEIGHBOR.
Some law firms advertise that they are the largest. In law, largest is not always best. In fact, your case could get lost in the shuffle with one of those very large law firms. Catania are family-owned. They are Tampa Bay's attorneys representing clients who have experienced auto and motorcycle accidents. Your case will need a local attorney to get a settlement in your favor. Catania, serving Tampa Bay families for over 28 years. Referrals on request. Get the local law firm to represent you. They don't get paid if you don't get paid. Catania, putting families first.
Car accident, motorcycle accident? Call the local attorneys today. Catania, offices Tampa. Non-attorney spokesperson.
David Gronowski here. Let me tell you about a man named Gabriel. Every day, Gabriel puts on his boots and drives across America to make sure our store shelves stay stocked with the food people count on. See, Gabriel served our country overseas. He knows that America stands for freedom, quality, and caring for others the way we would like to be treated. That's why when Gabriel saw food shelves getting low during the pandemic, he hit the road as a driver with Oakley Transport. In the land of the free, where no one should go hungry, we need heroes like Gabriel to help keep America fed. CDLA driving professionals. Join Oakley Transport today. Keep America fed. Visit oakleytransport.com or call them today at 1-877-8-TANKER. That's 1-877-8-TANKER.
Dear Mom and Dad, well, the Army has finally seen fit to give me some time off, so I'm writing to tell you that I'm doing fine over here. And Mom, since you asked, if anyone wants to help, just tell them to contact the USO. You can't believe how much they do for us. With love, your son, Michael.
The USO depends on the generosity of the American people. To find out how you can help, visit us at uso.org. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Our Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm David Gronowski, your host, and I want to go back to where we started when we started this episode, when I was talking about Nikolai Berdyaev and his comments on slavery, because I want to wrap it back up to that. It's all about the big picture here on this program. In this upcoming article that we'll have on our website by Surat Dasgupta, aneighborschoice.com, you'll find it there, aneighborschoice.com. The article says, what liberates man from slavery Berdyaev's answer is a call to true aristocracy, namely one that ascends beyond the impersonal, the herd, and descends to those who are suffering and abandoned. You know who's abandoned right now and suffering? People who are abandoned in Luddite political forced isolation in nursing homes, eating horrible nutrition, many of them. The article says the principal mark of true aristocracy is not exaltation but self-sacrifice, which are derived from inward riches, a readiness to descend, inability to feel resentment. True aristocracy, according to Berdyaev, manifests in creativity, not of the vain kind, but towards the betterment of one's own neighbor. Great creative men, Berdyaev writes, have always thought of themselves as called to service. They have a universal mission. Not only is creativeness the act of love towards fellow man, but it also manifests God's energy in his creation. Creativeness is liberation from slavery. Man is free when he finds himself in a state of creative activity. Creativeness leads to ecstasy of the moment. The products of creativeness are within time, but the creative act itself lies outside of time. So that's just some excerpts. You can look forward to reading the full article on aneighborschoice.com. But these points are very good, and they resonate with what we say a lot. It's amazing. So many things Berdyaev says, I have said, and I've never read any of his content until recently. And it just shows you that the truth, you can find it many paths up the mountain to get to the truth. And it's something we need to think about, because I talk all the time about rolling up our sleeves. That's about that creativity, the creativeness. That's your calling as a human being, the rolling up your sleeves, right? And then you work. And in your work and in your craft, you have those moments of pure ecstasy, of joy in the creative process. And yes, there is the value of what you produce as an end result, as a product or an art or a service. But ultimately, it's that actual creative aha moment, whether you're, whatever your craft is or your art is or your technology that you're working on is, it's that aha that is what we're all about. That stands in such stark contrast with the lull, the dull, and the ignorance of isolation, of nanny state sterility. There is nothing sterile about creativity. Creativity is alive. It's crackling with energy. It's crackling with life. And what we have on the media and the YouTube and all these platforms is crackling with death. It's not crackling at all. It's just stinks, because they don't want freedom. They are the people who never learned the time-old lesson that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, that Lord Acton said. They are people who think that somehow the world will be better when they get to censor everybody's opinions. They don't realize that this is the same folly that fascists and tyrants and kings and emperors around history have always tried and always failed, which is to stamp out man's human creativity. But these people will try again, like Luddites, ignorant of history that they are, and they'll fail again. They'll build that stupid, flimsy Tower of Babel, trying to be God, and it'll crumble over and over and over again, because they can't just sit back and enjoy the beauty that's all around them and respect the human free will that their neighbor has. They want to stamp it out and control it for their own social status. But they will have no status when their towers of Babel fall. They'll just be babbling to each other in a postmodern, incoherent mess. And you and I will just build what we have to build. I'm David Gornosky. Godspeed.